Literally a $500 billion secret that's been hiding in plain sight. And it's hiding inside almost every single bottle of traditional European wine you can buy. We usually think of European wine as this untouchable, ancient craft, right? But the crazy truth is, the whole industry is actually built on a quiet, cross-continental rescue mission, one that a lot of traditionalists kind of prefer to sweep under the rug. To really get this secret, we gotta rewind a bit to a famous event. Have you ever heard of the Judgment of Paris? Back in 1976, a British wine merchant named Stephen Spurrier set up this highly anticipated blind tasting right in Paris. He brought in 9 of France's absolute heavy hitters, top critics, sommeliers, vineyard owners. So all the labels are hidden. But when they finally opened those envelopes to reveal which wine was which, the entire room fell into complete dead silence. And the sheer shock of what happened next basically changed history overnight. California wines, stuff like Stag's Leap and Chateau Montelino, which literally nobody in Europe took seriously at the time, had just taken first place. They beat out the absolute finest French wines in both the red and the white categories. The French experts had just publicly ranked American wine above their own. One humiliated French judge literally demanded to get his ballot back. Time magazine broke the story, and man, the global wine industry was just never the same.
Section 1. A priceless tradition. The ancient legacy of European wine. To understand why that American victory stung the French so incredibly deeply, we really have to look at the immense, ancient tower of European tradition that they felt was under attack.
Just look at this timeline. We're talking about tracing an 8,000-year journey here. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a multi-millennia epic. It starts way back around 6000 BC with fermented wild berries in Armenian caves. Then fast forward to the 1st century AD, and you've got Roman legionaries planting vineyards in Germany's Moselle region. These are vines that survived wars and plagues. By the 12th century, monks are out there meticulously mapping Burgundy. And jumping to 1855, Napoleon III's officials dropped this rigid classification for Bordeaux wines that amazingly still dictates prices over 170 years later. And it all comes down to this concept called terroir. It really highlights the sheer depth of their craft. Back in the 12th and 13th centuries, Cistercian monks in Burgundy started noticing something weird. They saw that different plots of land produced wines with totally different flavors, even if they were cultivated the exact same way. Now, they didn't know anything about soil chemistry back then, but they systematically mapped out these plots anyway. They actually marked the boundaries with literal stones, based purely on flavor observation. Okay, so here's why this matters. It's all about the staggering value this ancient tradition created. Because of those monks marking stones 800 years ago, today we have places like the Romaine Conti vineyard. This is a tiny, tiny plot. It covers less than 2 hectares. They only make about 6,000 bottles a year. And the average auction price for just one of those bottles, a mind-boggling $30,000. Think about that for a second. The entire annual harvest from that tiny plot is worth as much as a small residential neighborhood. Section 2. The bug that broke Europe. An apocalyptic threat arrives. Because in 1863, down in southern France, a catastrophe struck that brought this entire untouchable, ancient industry completely to its knees. So vineyard owners started noticing their vines acting strangely. The leaves would just turn yellow, the vines would wither, and then they'd die. Nobody had a clue what was going on, but the truth was honestly horrifying. A microscopic insect had hitched a ride on a trading ship all the way from North America. It was an aphid called phylloxera, less than a millimeter long. And here's the absolute worst part. It fed invisibly on the roots, underground, meaning by the time a farmer saw yellowing leaves up on the surface, it was too late. The vine was already doomed. The devastation? It was absolutely apocalyptic. Within just 20 years, this microscopic little bug wiped out 2/3, a full 66% of all grapevines across France, Spain, Italy, Germany, and Austria. Since European vines had never encountered this bug before, they had zero natural defenses against it. It just spread like wildfire. We're talking about entire ancient traditions, thousands of years of selective breeding, just erased in a single season. Generations of growers were completely ruined. In historical places like Languedoc in southern France, where the Romans themselves had been making wine, the devastation was so total that the human population actually fell by 1/3 in just 2 decades. People simply lost their only livelihood and had to pack up and flee. The panic was absolute. It was so bad that the French government, absolutely desperate to save their national heritage, offered a massive reward of 300,000 gold francs to anyone, literally anyone, who could stop the plague. But you know what the terrifying thing is? That enormous prize just sat there, completely unclaimed for 2 whole decades.
People were just desperate, trying the most incredibly absurd fixes you could imagine to claim that reward. Intentionally flooding centuries-old vineyards with water? Sure, they tried it. Treating the soil with harsh kerosene? Why not? Guys, they even tried burying live toads beneath the vines, hoping they'd act like, I don't know, little underground bouncers to eat the bugs. Unsurprisingly, most of these wild methods just ended up killing the vines alongside the insects. Nothing was working.
Which brings us to Section 3, the American root solution, a counterintuitive fix to save an industry. So finally, this French scientist named Jules Planchon stepped up with a fix so bizarre, people actually laughed at him at first. He proposed using the exact continent that caused the problem to fix the problem. Here's how they did it. Since North American vines had coexisted with phylloxera for thousands of years, they'd naturally evolved an immunity to it. So Planchon suggested, why not take those tough, wild American roots, plant them in the ground, and then physically graft the highly prized, deeply flavorful European vines right on top. Now, this is absolutely fascinating because the profound irony here is just staggering. The exact same American biology that brought the bug over and nearly annihilated European wine history became the only physical structure capable of keeping it alive. The wild American roots fought the bug down in the dirt, while the ancient European heritage just continued to grow the grapes up top in the sun. It's like a botanical Frankenstein that actually worked. Moving to Section 4, the industry's quiet secret, the foundation of a $500 billion global market. This cross-continental agricultural surgery was a massive, industry-saving success. But it laid down a reality that prestigious European winemakers still kind of prefer not to talk about out loud today. Today, the entire $500 billion global wine industry stands on this quiet secret. Virtually all the traditional wine produced in Europe, whether we're talking about France, Italy, Spain, or Germany, it all grows on American roots. Remember that $30,000 bottle from the tiny Burgundian plot mapped by monks 800 years ago? Those world-class grapes are literally growing out of wild American wood. American roots literally saved European wine. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to ponder. The next time you're out to dinner and you pour a glass of traditional, highly rated European wine, marveling at its ancient, unbroken lineage, ask yourself, whose roots are you really drinking? Thanks for hanging out with me for this deep dive, and remember to always keep questioning what's really inside the glass.